What's going on, guys? So I just watched this movie called My Little Eye. It was released in 2002. It's like a horror mystery movie that's kind of based on the reality TV show Big Brother, where there's people who have to live in a house and there's hidden cameras and cameras in every room, every nook and cranny. He's got some sort of camera. This movie kind of takes it a step further, and they put cameras like in pens and stuff too, so they can see what people are writing. Very intrusive. Anyway, 5 people. They decide to, to participate in the show, and they get, drafted to be on it. And the whole show is about you have to live in this house for 6 months. If you do it, you get $1 million. You get to go outside, but you have a curfew, and if one person breaks curfew, if one person leaves the house, everybody loses. So anyway, the movie starts off in the last couple of weeks of the show, and these people are already getting on each other's nerves. There's lots of tensions, lots of paranoia. At night, the motion detector lights are always going off, and they think maybe someone's outside. They're really starting to wonder about who's running the show. They're getting hungry because the care packages the people running the show send them are containing less and less food. They start just sending them wine and sending them guns and all kinds of weird things. At one point they send this one guy a letter telling him his grandfather's dead, and he's really close to his grandfather. I guess he raised him or something, and he's really tempted to leave. There's all kinds of noises going on at night. You'll hear like footsteps and scampering upstairs, and they find a hurt bird up there at one point, and one of the guys just kills it and says, "Well, it was the kindest thing to do." So yeah, these people are getting really paranoid. There's this one guy here who's like a conspiracy theorist and a total dickhole, and he's like hoarding all this food under there, and everyone else is going hungry. Lots of betrayal, lots of like these guys fucking each other over and stuff like that. At one point, that guy also takes this girl's underwear and puts it in another guy's room, framing him, making him look like a pervert, and that guy hangs himself later. So anyway, they're all wondering like who's running this internet show. Is this guy's grandpa really dead? Is all this really going on? Is it all fabricated to get them to leave the house? And blah blah blah. And they're, the majority of them are dead set in staying in that house. And the motion lights keep going on upstairs. They keep hearing noises. At one point, a guy shows up on their steps, and they think he's a killer for some reason, but they let him in and hang out, and he ends up sleeping with one of the girls, the Charlie character. But yeah, I guess this movie is supposed to be initially 4 hours long, and maybe in the 4-hour version explains the story a little better. Because it turns out like all the kind of obscure packages these people are sending the house have something to do with these people's, past lives, their little shady history. Like when they sent this guy the gun, it was supposed to indicate something about his father's suicide, and there's at one point where a girl wakes up and there's a hammer covered in blood in her bed, and I don't know what that was supposed to indicate at all. I have no idea what that was, but it really freaked her out and reminded her of something, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't really explain a lot about these guys' history or what this kind of shit that's going on is supposed to mean. But yeah, it's directed by a guy called Marc Evans, and he's made a whole bunch of movies, and I haven't seen any of them. There's Patagonia, Trauma, Beautiful Mistake, House of America, Snowcake, in Prison my whole life, on and on. He's made so many movies. This movie also has a really small cast. There's only 7 people in it that I could see. There's these 5, and then there's a cop, and then there's the wanderer guy. Anyway, I'll just spoil this movie so you don't have to watch it. So they're all living in this house, being watched on the internet, and they start wondering who's watching them and stuff. And there's a smart kind of computer hacker, paranoid conspiracy theorist guy. Where is he? Is he here? He's not in the room. But anyway, here's the guy who's hoarding all the food, and he finds a way to hook up to the internet to try and find this website. He decides to, he steals the wanderer guy. He left a broken GPS there, and he jimmies a GPS to surf the internet, right? So he manages it, can't find the website, and he talks to some of his hacker friends, I guess, and they send them this like encrypted code, and they find this heavily guarded website, and it's like really hard to get into, and they're wondering why would they make this show that it's impossible to find. I thought they would get all their money to pay us off of advertisers and stuff like that. There's the wanderer guy. But yeah, so it's this heavily encrypted site. At this point in the movie, one guy's already killed himself, and they wonder if he was murdered or was it actually suicide. Blah blah blah. But anyway, it turns out one of the guys in the house works for the show, and he's also a psychopathic killer. There's all these private investors into the show who just like to watch like live snuff movies that take like 6 months to develop, I guess. A cop shows up because they signal for help, but the cop is also working for the show. So yeah, it turns out the basis of the show is the last one who survives gets the money, and the psychopathic killer doesn't get it because his friend kills him, and they leave the Laura Reagan character, I think her name is Emma or Emily, she's locked up in a cooler, and there's like it's open for a sequel, I guess, but it wasn't very good. It was very boring, very slow, not a lot was explained. Like, the acting was alright, the acting wasn't terrible, it was kind of a good idea, I guess. Was it? Not really, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend this movie. It's really boring, not a lot of action. I think there's a decapitation at some point, which is kind of exciting, but just like some really shitty dialogue, really shitty story. Not enough was explained. It used to be 4 hours long, and then they trimmed it down to just under 2 hours, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend this movie to anybody. It's just about Big Brother turned into a horror movie, I guess, but it wasn't even that horrifying. It's kind of, even the ending wasn't that great. Disappointing.